So hi everyone, today what we're gonna see together is how I animated these cables in the foreground. So what we're gonna have is dynamic splines following a plane that's unfolding. So in the first video we're gonna see how to set up these dynamics and how to bake them. So next, in a second video, what we're gonna see is how to extend this setup, and so we can easily duplicate our poles and have easy control over the animation without the hassle of using dynamics. So first off, here in Cinema, what I'm gonna do is add a material by double clicking, import my texture, and add a plane in the scene, and just apply the texture. So I'm just increasing my texture preview size, and I will just copy my texture to the alpha, so we have some alpha going on. So here for the width segments I set it to 1, and for the width of the plane I set it to 200. So I'll just add another segment in the middle for the plane. You'll see why in a minute. I have to adjust my texture, tiling, and offset, so it's in the middle of the plane, like so. And now what we want to do is just add a bend effector, and so this will enable us to do the animation. So I increase the strength to roll it up. I just rotate my plane, and then what I'm gonna do is just increase my strength, and this time what I want to do is I want this to look like something like that. So in my coordinates I now want to animate this bend, so I have to set keyframes on the z-axis, so I just move it up and add a second keyframe. Okay, and so just gonna adjust my curves. So I go to animation, show F curve, and I just change the first point like that, so it's a little bit quicker at the beginning. That's okay, and I'm just renaming. Okay, I put everything in a null object, and I'm adding another null. This will be the null where we're gonna fix our cables, and I'm gonna display this as a cube, radius 5 centimeters, and I'm just adding an expressor tag on the null. Then what we want to do is having our null following our plane when it's unfolding, so we're gonna do that through expressor. So I'm just adding in my null and my plane. So I'm gonna look for a point node in expressor, and I'm gonna link the object to the object of my plane. Then on the other side, I just link my point position to the global position of my null. Okay, so here we can see we have a problem. It's yellow, so that means it's problematic. Our plane is a primitive for now, and we need to convert this to an editable object hitting C, and now everything is back to normal. So already when I move my timeline, we can see the null is already on the plane. Okay, I just change the color so we can see better. I'm setting this window on the left, so we have both expressor window and viewports at the same time. So here I'm just gonna increase my point index, so you can see the null is just switching from point to point. We want the null to be attached over there. So here we don't have no points right on the texture, so I have to add a second point node like that. So here this point node is on point index 31. This one I'm gonna set it to 28, so it's this point. And now we have both points. We want to add a vector transition. So vector transition is really handy. We just have to add a start vector and end vector, connect the result to the global position. Then here this node allows us to mix between both vectors. So here we have a transition, and I can set this to 0.5, so it's right in the middle. That's not exactly where I want it, so I just change the value 0.6. So this is okay. So now I go back to 0, and already we can see we have another problem. It's not following our geometry. So to correct that, what we do is I just select our point nodes. So I'm just checking use deformed points, and now it's following the plane. We still have a little lag on the null, so I just set the priority to generators, and it's working. Okay, so when I play back my animation, it's working correctly. So next, I'm just gonna rename that. So I just duplicate it to have a second pole, and move it on Z. So I want this to be like 650 centimeters to the right, like that. So we have our two first poles, and I just want to offset the bend on the second one, so when we calculate the dynamics we get something more interesting. From the right side I'm gonna draw a line, so I select my vertices and scale them down on Y. Then here I know the Z size is 650, and I set everything to 0 on the position. I place it almost where I want, So I'm just gonna select one of the vertices. Then in mesh axis center, I'm gonna align that on my vertex. So this way it's gonna be easier to place my spline. So here what I want to do is just enable my snapping options, snap to axis, and so this should be exactly the same length than what you have between both nulls. So if now I want to subdivide this, it's not gonna work properly because of the interpolation. So if I set this to 10 subdivision, you can see here we have those 2 points that are closer than those two. So we're gonna go back and change the type to linear. So this is now going to work as we want. Okay, so you see we have equal distance everywhere. I rename the spline. So I'm gonna add some spline dynamics. Then I'm also adding hair constraint. So control dragging I duplicate because you want 2 constraints. So for now everything is falling down, but we're gonna constrain our points to the nulls. So I select the first one, the first constraint, and I set my null here. Same for the other side. Here it's just the other point on the right and the second null. I click on set, and now our cable is following the animation. So I can duplicate 2 times my first cable, renaming them. Then I just get rid of my spline dynamics, so I can just place them where I want, like so. Then I'm gonna go to my coordinates and just copy over my X and paste it in the third cable, just removing the minus sign. So yeah. Then I unfold this and I do the same. I'm gonna select my points on the cable and set my constraints. So this is okay. I set the second constraint. I select my point. I set. Same for the third cable. I select my constraints, my point. I set. And the last one, same thing. And now I just have to add my dynamics back. So here, spline dynamics. So now when I hit play, everything is working as expected, and we just have maybe some sort of offset over here. So to correct this, I just set my cable in second after the animation. So this is not working, but what we can do is just change the properties of the dynamic tag. And so I set the priority of the dynamics tag to generators, and now we still have a little offset, but it seems to be better. So this is not a big issue because we're gonna bake the dynamics anyways, so it will work. So I'm just gonna extend the timeline and let the simulation run. So what we're gonna do now is I want to change the parameters on the dynamics. So each cable behaves a little bit different. So for the middle one, we wanted to hang a little more, so I set the gravity to 25. I will look through my right view. This is maybe 30 is better. Then my third cable, I'm gonna change the gravity to. I'm gonna set it to 17. Okay. So that's not bad. Let's see the animation. We can see each cable has a different behavior now. So I think it's more interesting like that. Next, what we're gonna do is I think the cables are wiggling a bit too long. So I'm going to go to my properties and in the drag I'm gonna increase it to 5 for example. Yeah, that's better. Maybe 10%. So yeah, they're going to rest a little sooner. So that's okay. So now I put everything in a null, so to keep things organized. So this will be our dynamics. Then I just duplicate this, and this will be our baked version. I just hide my dynamics, and here we don't need this anymore, so I delete it. I put my cables in a null, and on this side I do the same, and I rename this. I rename this cables. This one cable is 2, and now I'm gonna add a morph tag, pose morph, and what I want here is the points and the hierarchy, because we want to morph everything what's inside our cables. So that's the splines. So I delete this one and I copy this dynamics cables. I want this to be absolute, so I hit yes. Then now this is hidden. Just to see this more clearly, I just set them color to green, for example, and so yeah, so this is our morphed cables, so that are using the main dynamic cables. So now here I just check my point level animation, and on frame 0 I'm just gonna add a keyframe. So if I go to my animation window here, I want to drag in my cables, and now what we're gonna do is we're gonna bake those cables, and then we're gonna get rid of the morph tag. And so I go to function, bake objects. I don't want no position, rotation, or animated parameters. I just want the point level animation. I don't want to create a copy neither, and I hit OK. Then for the second cable I do the same. I uncheck what I don't need. OK. Same for the third one. Okay. So I tried to do the bake object on the 3 cable at once, but it didn't seem to work, so I don't know why. Anyways, so here I get rid of that. I don't need that. And the cables are still moving. So this time it's baked in into the cable, into the point level animation. And you see here there's a small offset. So all we have to do now is we just select our keyframes and move them back one frame. So now everything should follow. Okay, everything seems okay now. I'm gonna cut the video here, and in the next one we're gonna see how we can push this setup a little further. Bye everyone.